ഓക്കെ. കഴിഞ്ഞ സെഷൻ നമ്മൾ നോക്കി ഡേറ്റാബ്രിക്സിന്റെ ഒരു ഹൈ ലെവൽ അല്ലേ, ജസ്റ്റ് ഡേറ്റാബ്രിക്സ്
അതെ അതെ
ഫങ്ഷണാലിറ്റീസ്
അതെ.
ഒക്കെ അല്ലേ. ഓക്കെ, നമുക്ക് ഈ സാധനം ഒന്ന് ആദ്യം മാറ്റി വെക്കാം ഇതിലൂടെ. സോ ഓക്കെ, സി ഡേറ്റാബ്രിക്സിൽ നമ്മൾ യൂഷ്വലി വാട്ട് വി ഡു ഇസ് when it comes to creation of pipeline, it's a combination of Azure and Databricks. Okay. Uh, it can be just the Databricks. So some companies prefer to use Databricks, but the problem with just using Databricks, it's slightly expensive. It's quite expensive. Databricks clusters are quite expensive, so even the storage is expensive. So usually companies stick on to Azure plus Databricks combination. Uh, so Azure have a cheaper storage option. Azure have a cheaper ETL tools. Databricks have expensive ETL processing. The main problem is always you can't compute using Azure Databricks. So we will have to stick with that combination. Okay. Give me a second. No? Sorry. Okay. So, so when it comes to ETL tools, right? We have something called ADF, Azure Data Factory. Let me show you those things. Okay. So if you are familiar, if you're not, so see in this class, I'm not giving you any SQL or Python training because you already know Python and SQL, right? So we don't have to waste time on that side of it. Okay. So I'll just jump to ADF. So, so this is the Azure screen. Have you worked on Azure, Jishnu? I think you're pretty much working on
അഷ്യൂർ ഇല്ല.
AWS, right?
AWS കുറച്ച് ഐഡിയ ഉണ്ട്.
Yeah, so mainly you were in AWS. Okay. അപ്പം ഇതില് see Azure basically നമുക്ക് ഇവിടെ you can see a lot of features like storage account which we need. We need ADF, Azure Data Factory. So I already have it added here in my dashboard. This is one of the data factory items which I've added. But see, what you have to do is the first thing is before I have to get started with ADF and storage and all, you will have to create a resource group. So first thing is we'll have to create a resource group. So here I've already created a resource. We'll just create one more. So we'll just give. So this is my old resource. So let it get created. So inside the resource group, we can create a Azure Data Factory, and we can you create a storage account where you will be accessing your files. Okay, see, the point is we can even create a Databricks, but Databricks, dealing with Databricks from the cloud is actually expensive. I mean, expensive in the sense it will cost you few dollars for every run and stuff. So what we do is we'll use a community edition of Databricks to get a look and feel of the Databricks, and also you can do a lot of ETL jobs, anything and everything you can do it here, and we will kind of assume that okay, this Databricks. So basically, if when it comes to a ETL process, we I think, did I mention about the Medallion architecture? There was I think there was a session which we discussed about Medallion architecture, right? Where there is
Yes.
a bronze, silver,
Yes.
and gold. Okay.
Bronze and
So
gold.
yeah, so if you remember, this bronze will be always data which we don't make changes, more like an immutable data. Why? Because bronze is the area where you store, bring in the data every day, and also from bronze you will send it to an archive. So any point of time, if you have to bring back the data,
Mhm.
bronze data will be fresh or whatever. Let's say your job failed, or if something goes wrong after a couple of run and stuff, and then so this backup is always there. So so usually what happens is we create jobs from source to bronze. Okay, source can be any different sources. So from source to bronze, we will use data as your data factory.
Okay.
And yeah, so here what I'll show is let me go back and show you this storage account. So here I have created one storage account. It's already there. So I'll create one more. So we created one. So I'll create one storage account. So Azure have two different kind of data storage. One is called blob storage, and now it is called as Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So Gen 2 is the one which we are using. So we will use a standard, and we can choose standard. Then uh, advanced features. These features you can leave it as is. Networking, all this public is all fine. These things you can disable when it comes. So basically, you don't really deal these kind of configuration when it comes to actual job, because you are not a cloud engineer. So cloud engineers are, they are the one who gives you the storage and all, right? So
Oh, okay. Okay.
you will not be
അപ്പോ
able to configure company and all. Okay.
ഒരു ബിഗ് MNC ഒരു സെപ്പറേറ്റ് ആൾക്കാർ ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കുമല്ലേ ഈ ഈ പുതിയ സർവീസ് ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യണൊക്കെ ആയിട്ട്.
ഈ സർവീസ് ഒക്കെ ബേസിക്കലി നമ്മള് MNCസിലൊന്നും നമുക്ക് ഈ ക്ലൗഡ്, ഈ റിസോഴ്സ് ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാനോ അങ്ങനത്തെ ആക്സസ് ഒന്നും നമുക്ക് കിട്ടില്ല. നമുക്ക് ആക്സസ് കിട്ടുക എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അസ്യൂർ ഡേറ്റ ഫാക്ടറി ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം, അതിൻ്റെ അകത്ത് പൈപ്പ് ലൈൻസ് ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം, ഈവൻ
Okay.
കണക്ഷൻ കീസ്, those things you will not be able to create. Everything you will have to connect with the cloud team, and they will create and give you. So basically credential, those most of the things will be created by them. Okay.
Okay.
But still,
Okay.
right, we have to get some idea what is it. So we will create it ourselves. So we will create the storage account. So going back to under the
വേറെ
storage.
ഡൗട്ട്, ഒരു
uh,
റിസോഴ്സ് ഗ്രൂപ്പ് എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ എന്താ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്? ഒരു ഒരു പ്രൊജക്റ്റ് ആണോ അതോ ഒരു ഒരു ക്ലയന്റുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ടെല്ലാമാണോ?
ഒരു resource group, okay, see, it can be, you can have multiple resource group under uh, one company, and for each projects, I think it can be on under each projects. I have not
Okay.
checked whether we are using a lot of resource group in our company, but we will
Okay.
uh, we will be using one. I think there are multiple resource groups. So if it's a different project, then it will be different resource group. Let me see. Basically, it's about environment isolation. So
Okay.
each
Okay.
environment we can have a different resource group for development, testing, UAT, and production. So that's how
Okay.
they do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay.
Okay.
So there
Okay.
is one more
Great.
thing. See,
Environment.
this user IDs or like all these credentials, right? Uh,
Okay.
let's say you have different credentials and all for different environment. So yeah, it's a separate resource group for each of this environment for development, UAT, and all. So those things will be different. Even uh, all these network. So there are multiple areas, right? Storage, network, uh, security. All these things will be different for different environment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have created the storage account. This is the storage account name, and you have to create container. So there are containers under that. So containers is the place where you create your folders and all. So let's create some container. So under container, we will have multiple folders like row. Row is the place where you maybe you can pull the data from, because when we don't have a third, let's say when we are learning ourselves, we don't have a API or source system to call, right? So instead of that, we'll use row. Okay, so this is a row folder. We will bring those some files or something. I have uploaded this file. Okay, so uh, now going back to we create a bronze.
നിങ്ങൾ ഇതിനകത്ത് ഫർദർ ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ് ടെസ്റ്റിംഗ് പ്രൊഡക്ഷൻ അങ്ങനെ വീണ്ടും ബക്കറ്റ്സ് ഉണ്ടാക്കാറുണ്ടോ?
അതാ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞത്. See, one second. Bronze and gold. See, the point is, so this container, right? You have a storage account, right? So we
ആ
can have actually multiple storage account. So storage account. This is, let's say, you can rename it to. Let's try to rename it. Don't have an option to rename. Okay, so let's create something like dev. Okay, dev storage account. Only now, please. I'll just give today's date, 20, 2602. So assume that this is actually a development storage account. So the reason is like you may not have access to production storage account, right? Because everything have to be governed properly. So if you are a developer, you will have access only till UAT or maximum pre-prod. You may not have access to production. So they will have a separate storage account for that. Okay. So
Okay.
similarly, under storage account, you will create containers that will be again for similar structure, but it will be for production, right? Something like that. Okay. So let's uh, I think it's still getting created. We'll go back to this one for now. Okay, so assume that we have the storage account, we have raw. I don't know why is it the remaining stuff is not showing up, but it's okay. We'll look into that later. So we have created those raw bronze and silver and all. Uh, Similarly, now going back to ADF, Azure Data Factory. So Azure Data Factory, I have something like this. Let's create something a different data factory account. Here you can actually configure Git and stuff. So again, Git also we don't configure it. It's done by a team. Uh, DevOps team who's the one doing it. So Git, I'll try to configure it. I was trying to do it. I got some roadblocks on DevOps side, but that's not very important in terms of it's all about you how where do you keep the code and stuff. So you will have to keep the code in GitHub or DevOps Git, Azure DevOps itself. Okay, so this one got created. Okay, so now you will have to launch this. Okay, so this is a uh, Azure Data Factory window where you can create your pipelines and stuff. So there is something called author, there is a monitor, then there is a manage. So author is the place where you kind of create your pipelines and all. Monitor is the place where the orchestration part happens. When you run a job, those jobs are shown here. I'll just go back to my other account. So I'll just show that part. So this is kind of a separate account. So you see, you can see it. It can be development. This can be a UAT. So you can migrate this code from
Okay.
here to
Okay.
here. You asking something?
ഇല്ല ഇല്ല ഓക്കെ
Okay. So here, if you see, this is a monitor where I have triggered a lot of pipeline and it's failed to success and all. So here you have multiple pipelines I've created. So here in pipelines again, uh, this is one of the pipeline I've created. So here inside the pipeline, so if you see here, you have few options. Okay, so data sets, data flow, um, Power Query, etc. So usually we use data set and pipelines, and you can also use change data capture, which is relevant to our work. But change data capture is the can be done in Databricks as well. Okay, so here under pipeline, when you create a pipeline, so there are multiple options. Okay, so you can create a pipeline here, and you can create a data set and you can create a data flow. So pipeline is the one which does the ETL part. Okay, we kind of create
Okay.
all the ETL jobs inside the pipeline and we run the pipeline. Okay, data set is the one which is used to connect to a particular data source. Okay, so we will create one
ഈ
new
ഈ ഡാറ്റ
pipeline.
സോഴ്സിലുള്ള ഡാറ്റ ലേക്കിലുള്ള അല്ലേ?
I'll tell you that. Okay, see here. Uh, we'll jump. I'll just tell you. Okay, this is a. Uh, so we'll give a name. So let the first thing is first. So if you have to copy your data from any source, okay, it can be from data lake or any source. We will use something called use something called copy data. Okay.
ഓക്കെ
So
ഓക്കെ.
there are a lot of items in this. So if you see, there is something called copy data, data flow, Synapse, Azure Function, Databricks, batch services. Then these are the items which we predominantly use for our ETL purpose. Okay. Then you can also use Notebook for our data bricks. So we'll come to copy data first. Okay. See, inside the copy data, we have source and sink. Source is the place from which you are going to connect and get the data. So let's create one source. Okay. The moment you click on source, it is asking you to create a new data set. Choose a new data. So I have to click on new and add a new data set. Okay. So new data set, you can see there this has a lot of connectors. It can connect to a lot of different source systems. Okay. So in our case, we will use Azure Data Lake Gen 2. Okay, you can connect to database. You can connect to Azure Databricks, Delta Lake. So many things. Okay, see, if you have to connect to this, you should have the system up and running somewhere, or you should have a credential. Okay, then you can connect. So let's say you have a database in one of your server, you can connect to that, but you should have all the credentials as well as the connection string and all. Okay, so here we are clicking on Azure Data Lake Gen 2, and we will choose the different kind of files what we deal with, because Azure Data Lake we deal only with kind of files. Inside the Data Lake Gen 2, you will deal only with files. So we just uploaded one file, right? So I'll click on continue on. Let's say it's a. I have uploaded a CSV file. So we'll click on continue. I can give a name of this. Okay, so I'll just give
ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ.
dataset underscore. So I have already created a lot of things. Okay, so I'll go back to the other account. So let's go back to the other account. So here we'll create our first pipeline. Copy data source. Click on this. Gen 2 continue. So I'll give dataset underscore row sales, or yeah, row underscore sales. It's a sales data. So we have to create a linked service. So linked service is again uh, should be created, or we should have one linked service at least to connect to this storage. So basically, uh, from ADF, it has to connect to a storage, right? So to connect that storage, we should have a linked service. So we are creating a linked service. So I'll just keep one
Okay, okay.
name, whatever it has.
Is it like IAM പോളിസി കൊടുക്കാറുണ്ട് നമ്മൾ ഗ്ലൂ ജോബ്സിന് ബക്കറ്റിലോട്ട്?
Yeah, something like that. So glue, if you have to connect glue with S3, you will have that, you will have a connection, right?
Yes,
Similar to
yes,
that.
yes.
So
Okay.
similar to that, they have a linked service. So you create one if you don't have one. Okay, now you have it here. Now we can actually choose a file. Uh, Maybe that link service is still running at the backend.
Okay, okay. Okay, okay. Must be fetch details.
Error code, the endpoint does not support. Oh yeah, there is something called soft delete option which is enabled. This has to be disabled. So we have to go back to our storage. And to go back to our storage, click on this. There is something called soft delete option. So you have to disable this. Disable those. Go back to this. Yeah. So now we have that folder, row folder. Under the row folder, you have this file. Okay. So we selected this file. This will copy. So source is ready. Now sync. So sync again will create another dataset. Uh, Dataset to connect. So what kind of file? Let's say you're writing to a Avro or Parquet. Okay. You're so let's give dataset underscore browse underscore signature. We already created a link service. That is good enough. So we'll go here. Storage. Somehow whatever folder I've created, it is not created. Ideally, that bronze should be there. I don't know why it is not showing. So we'll go back. Create bronze. So okay, it's okay. What I'll do is I'll put a name here. Bronze. Okay, it will create if it is not there. Okay, so schema operation failed as in bronze or path not found. Well, does not access request to the maybe I'll do one thing. I'll just put a sample file. Just something like this. Okay, I'll just put one file here. So that this file we can remove it later once it is done. Yeah, now bronze is there. Okay. Okay. Then once this is ready, we'll do a publish. So when you do a publish, if there is any error, it keeps popping up. Okay, it will pop up all the error. If there is anything missing, it pops up an error. Right, so do a publish. Then we go trigger now. So it just got published. So it has to be successfully published. I'll do trigger pipeline. I'll go here, look for the pipeline. You'll be able to see the logs. So we go back to the storage, refresh it. Meanwhile, I'll remove this. See, a Parquet file got created.
Okay.
Okay, so this is one level of. So we can actually name it as source to raw to raw to bronze, right? Raw to bronze. Okay, so you did that. Okay, so the next thing, let's assume that you want to do it from bronze to silver. So this here is the point where you have to create a link service with Databricks, and you have to put the notebook here. So this part
Okay.
we will,
Okay.
we will do ETL or whatever. We'll use the community edition. Okay. So this is just a basic ETL pipeline. So it does bronze to silver, and from here you can name it as bronze to silver. Okay. And you give the connection and all. And another thing is when you create this notebook, I think I tried something. It will cost you few dollars every time when you run it, like $1 or $2 every time when you run it. You have to spin up the cluster. Yeah, cluster will cost you few dollars. Then every time when you run it, it will cost you some DBU and stuff. Depends on the cluster run and things. So that said, like this